Hey everybody, just a quick note about this podcast before we get started. I went through and I listened to it and I shared it privately with a few people and ended up making a few small edits to it just to protect the identification of some individuals that you might be able to jump to conclusions about who we're talking about here. It's a reminder. Everyone is innocent until proven guilty in a situation like this. So any accusations that are being thrown out there, any insinuations are just that. I say something at the beginning of this podcast reminding people of that, but tonight is the Freedom 250 Drone Show. We are coming together as a community and it should be a celebration. And if you take anything from this podcast that you're about to listen to and turn this community celebration into anything other than that for any individual in the township, then you're doing exactly what I don't want to have happen. There's some internal stuff happening here. There's some state level stuff happening here, and we don't have all the details, but ultimately this is more information than what anyone has leading up to this. So I hope you enjoy it. It's going to be fun. It's going to cause a lot of discussion, but in my opinion, that's a good thing. So enjoy.
This episode is brought to you by Dig and Drain. Hey, quick question. If your septic tank backed up tonight, who would you call? I always recommend my friends at Dig and Drain. They're local, they do routine pumping and maintenance repairs and emergency services, and the best news is they actually show up. They cover Allen, Hardin, and Logan counties and fix it right the first time. I know the owners personally, so I can tell you you're working with good people who will treat you right. Call Dig and Drain at 419-731-3187 or visit them online at www.diganddrain.com. Welcome to the Local Exchange Podcast, where Northwest Ohio comes to talk. Real people, real conversations, right here in our community. All right, before I get started, I want to make things very clear up front. I have not discussed this case with Dalton in any high level of detail ahead of time. Until this podcast lined up, I hadn't reached out to anybody from the township. I hadn't reached out to Chief Miller regarding this investigation, and I don't have any idea about the specifics that are going to be shared today. Dalton is here as his role of the legal counsel representing Chief Austin Miller, so everything he says will naturally come from that perspective. One side of the story. There is another side, and if anyone from the township or anyone else from that team would like to come on this podcast to share their perspective, the chair is always open. I ask that our listeners please not treat anything discussed today as the absolute truth. Ask questions, seek out information from multiple sources, and please, please, please have conversations with your neighbors to try to understand what's really going on. Most importantly, regardless of who is employed by the township or what our personal opinions are of them, we should all be working towards stability and the best possible outcomes for Shawnee Township for our fire department. With that being said, let's kick off episode 25 of the Local Exchange Podcast. I am joined here by Dalton Smith. Dalton, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
So real quick, I kind of mentioned why you're here, but go ahead and introduce yourself.
Sure. First of all, I'd like to say excellent job.
Thank you.
Good job. You would think you were an attorney. My name is Dalton James Smith. I had previously represented Austin Miller. I think his prior hearing that was held, I think that was December 15th.
I've got a little timeline over here.
Okay.
I was going to lay that out, too.
I think December 15th, I and Al Smith, who is my father, always refer to us as two assholes in our garage. With literally that day, we're in a garage.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're comfortable in a garage.
Yeah, comfortable. It's my natural habitat. Maybe not 5 degrees, but natural habitat. I think I was, if memory serves, retained maybe a week, at most 10 days before the hearing. There had been prior counsel. So I came in at the tail end of that. If memory serves, I think that was like an 8-hour hearing, something like that.
Yeah, it was something like that.
Yeah.
So I just for the sake of this, I'll go ahead and lay out kind of the timeline of of the Shawnee Township. And I started in December 2023 because that's when Chief Truesdale retired.
Okay.
19-year veteran of the fire department, he retired. Then in February 12th of 2024, so just 2 months later, Austin Miller was sworn in as the fire chief. Then I had on May 30th, so a few months later, he was placed on administrative leave. Then 175 days later, on November 21st, that's when he formally received his charges.
Correct.
Then on November 25th, he was suspended without pay. On December 15th, the termination hearing happened, and that's when the Shawnee Township and the Shawnee team got introduced to you through 419 Live. So that's something that I'll talk about here in a second after I get through this. So fast forward, the suspension happened. That unpaid suspension was lifted a few days later after that hearing. He was reinstated as the chief January 12th, and then on May 11th of this year, he was placed back on administrative leave.
Correct.
So if you are keeping track at home, it's been about 864 days since he was sworn in as the chief, and he has been able to serve 594 of those. So the math on that is 68.75% of the time that he has been the Shawnee Township Fire Chief, he's actually been able to be the active fire chief. So overall, from the public standpoint, this is infuriating that we are paying our public dollars towards something that ultimately he's not able to serve. And so, if he's doing something wrong, we'll get into all that. But you came onto this podcast. I had no intention of reaching out to you or anything. I don't want to, stir the pot, if you will.
Absolutely.
But on Friday of last week, I did a podcast with Jake Eilerman from 419 Live. And Jake said, hey, I got a contact to share with you. You happened to reach out with him the same day?
Yes.
So the day that he was coming on the podcast, he gives me your contact information. I ended up texting you a little bit later that night, you came on. So that's how you're here. So thank you. And he said that you have something that you want to share. You just want to have an open conversation.
Yeah, I want to have an opportunity to talk about it. And full disclosure, before I did something like this, and I hadn't reached out to you, I reached out to him, and until you told me, I really didn't even know his name. That was the gentleman who was live streaming it. Mm-hmm. And actually, it was my paralegal that tracked him down. That was not initially where I wanted to go. I pretty quickly after, I think the announcement of his recent suspension was also on May 11th. Mm-hmm. I had reached out to the trustees and their council by a written letter, which should be a public record. Anybody can get that. I have a copy of it with me. And asked to meet with them to talk about it. Because obviously I had represented him at the prior hearing on December 15th. Obviously, I don't think that was good for the township in any way. I think it inflamed a lot of passions. Mm-hmm. I think it fed into a lot of base natures. Personally, I do not think that was Austin Miller's fault at all. He was not in the driver's seat of that, but he did have to show up and he did have to defend himself, and that's what he did. But my hope was that this would have been something that the trustees didn't have a choice in, to figure out what the facts were, what they were operating off of, and frankly, what they knew. Because as a member of the public, just like you're a member of the public, just like anybody listening to this, whether you're a citizen of Shawnee Township or not, you have the right to know what's going on with governments, with public governments, with townships, with counties. It's why we have what's called the Public Records Act. You don't have to be a citizen of the township in which you live to get those records. They have to maintain those records. They have to provide them. And obviously, I think one of the things that caused things to become so inflamed the last time was that in total, 7 months he was suspended? Mm-hmm. And that whole 7 months, for some bizarre reason, nobody wanted to publicly say what the allegations were. Mm-hmm. And so if you're a member of the public and you're sitting there and you have to think to yourself, what did this guy do? Mm-hmm. What terrible thing did he do?
Well, yeah, my mind was running.
Sure.
I'm like, it could be a wide range of things. I would assume if it's really bad, they're taking him down quick.
Right.
But the longer the time went on, the more I said, well, what could this be?
Sure. It makes you speculate. And, it's called the Sunshine Law. All right, that's why we have these laws. The reason it's called the Sunshine Law is because sunshine is the best disinfectant. The government is not supposed to be allowed to keep secrets. It's certainly not supposed to be allowed to keep secrets about things that concern the public. And so I guess before I start going into this proper, I want to make clear the capacity in which I am here.
Yep.
I am not being paid to be here. Okay. Austin Miller is not paying me to be here. Austin Miller did not ask for me to arrange this. I am here because, for whatever reason, rather than talk to me, and mind you, there's lots of things I don't know, and there's things that I do know. And if I was somebody who cared about this, and I hope people care about it, I would want to know. And so I feel compelled to let people know what I know, and I feel compelled to let people to know what I don't know. And I'm going to be honest about that today. I think I know quite a bit, even though nobody's given me one scrap of paper.
Yep.
But to the extent I'm here, it's because, for whatever reason, the Shawnee Township trustees refused to meet with me. They refused to talk to me. I have met with their council. If memory serves, I think that was last week.
Mm-hmm. It was mentioned in the meeting on Monday.
Meeting?
Yeah. So the legal counsel said that he met with you guys. I think it was the week before or something like that. So
I had obviously I had written my letter, and then sometime later they asked me for a date in which I could meet. My presumption was that meant I would be meeting with the trustees. I was then notified it would be with council and their HR advisor, who's a gentleman from, I believe, Clemens Nelson. I think that's like a national HR firm.
Okay.
And the day of, I inquired, basically because no one had formally said, what the purpose of the meeting was.
Mm-hmm.
Because I presumed it was going to be, we're going to have a discussion about this.
So they set up the meeting. You didn't know what it was
Correct.
about.
I get an email from council's assistant that says he wants to pick a date that's 2 weeks out.
Okay.
So when you send a letter, and it was a nice letter, I think it's like 3 or 4 pages, but it's a nice letter. I think it's a nice letter. And someone says we're going to schedule a meeting, your presumption is the meeting that you're going to have is because of your letter.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're going to talk about what I asked to talk about.
That's a safe assumption.
You would think so.
If you got on here and you started talking about football, I'd be a little concerned.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, but I'm notified the day of that the trustees are not going to be there, that it's going to be council, that it's going to be the gentleman from their HR department, that Chief Miller is not allowed to be present, who obviously I represent.
Would he, I mean, in your opinion, is he allowed to be present?
Well, you know, it's not a courtroom.
Okay.
But if the purpose of this is to have a productive dialogue, because mind you, this is wall-to-wall silence.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's not as though somebody's reaching out to him or saying, hey, this is what's going on. I mean, it's just like last time. He is, in essence, in my opinion, in exile. We have cast you away. We're not going to communicate with you. We're not going to talk to you. We're not going to tell you what we're doing. And so the day of that meeting, I said I wanted to make sure it was okay that he was there, and I was specifically instructed it's not okay for him to be there. I was instructed specifically that the trustees had directed that it was not okay for Chief Miller to be there. Now, this should invite questions in everybody's minds. First question would be, that was not a public township meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So if council has had a dialogue with every member of the trustees outside of a public meeting, that's concerning. I mean, council can say, hey, I don't want him there. But if a directive is done on a day that's not in a public session from the township trustees, that's, in my opinion, not right, okay? Because anytime they exercise their power, it's supposed to be at a public meeting, okay?
Yep. Okay.
Setting that aside, I then inquired as to what the purpose of the meeting was, because why would we have a meeting if he's not allowed to attend? Because my purpose was to see if we could talk through this, see what's going on, get to the heart of it. And I think that was aptly characterized, if memory serves, by the first thing that was said to me on the call from council, which is, what is your deal with this guy? Not a very promising thing.
That's what your deal was with Chief Miller?
Yes. What is my deal with Chief Miller? Well, I mean, obviously, I have previously represented Chief Miller. But to the extent that you're seeking a good faith, productive dialogue, opposing counsel's first question insinuating that it's strange or peculiar or that you have, I don't even know, ulterior motive, but can't understand what your deal is with a township employee who has the right to counsel is not promising. And I think the question that we all naturally have is, and it's probably the better question is, what is your deal with this guy?
That's a question a lot of people are asking.
Sure. So I was told that the purpose of the meeting was, in essence, to get to that point, that I would be provided with evidence, supposedly as a result, although I'm not sure who was ever voted on and appointed an investigator, just like last time, but I would be presented with evidence that would reveal allegedly what Chief Miller had done. And so, along with Al Smith, my father, as I mentioned before, I think we went to that meeting at 3:00, and I did not get one piece of paper. I didn't get one scrap of evidence. I didn't get a recording. I got absolutely nothing. I was read what I would characterize as 5 or 6 allegations that had no specific detail contained within them, had no supporting documentation. I was advised that there is potentially some form of a criminal investigation. Nobody was able to tell me if it had concluded, if it was done, if there would be charges. I was told that somebody personally thinks that there might be charges. But as of that point, which is after they've done a public announcement and said he's going to be potentially subject to criminal prosecution for something, but not explaining what it was, I still didn't have an explanation of what that actual criminal conduct was.
So before we get there, let's
Sure.
let me take a step back from my. I need to understand. A lot of people draw conclusions and say, this investigation is very similar to the new, to what's happening now.
Yes.
What happened before, and initially there was a big difference. Like, what is really like the difference from a legal standpoint of how this happened? Was the first one? My impression is the first thing that happened last year, that was an internal investigation by the township. And this investigation, the way it was announced, was that it was a state-level investigation.
Correct.
And so from that, why are you meeting with the township legal as opposed to the state legal or something? Wouldn't they be the ones that have the answers?
Sure, and that's what we'll get to.
Okay.
The purpose that I of meeting with the township is, if you recall, in that announcement, the township also announced that it was looking into its own investigation.
There was something at the end there
Yes.
that was like a personnel matter or something, I think.
Yes.
Yep.
So that was the allegation. That's evidently true.
Okay.
Now, I don't know why when they had that public meeting and talked about it, they didn't publicly say what it was. I don't think that they can keep that a secret.
Well, can we talk about the Sunshine Law?
Sure.
And I mean, so just in general, like, what information is the township legally allowed to provide its
Sure.
citizens when an investigation's happening like this?
Absolutely. And I'll go into Chief Miller's situation is also peculiar because he has the right as the fire chief to a public hearing.
Okay.
So when there were oral arguments before the hearing got started last time, that's a lot of the stuff that I was touching on. So we'll go through that.
Okay.
Good point. So the Public Records Act says, to the extent a public record exists and a member of the public requests it, it has to promptly be provided.
Okay.
There's a big list of things that are exceptions to the Public Records Act. Okay. Some of those will apply, some of those won't apply. Regardless of that, when a member of the public makes a request for a public document, if that public entity is not going to provide it, it has to specifically articulate the exception under which it refuses to provide the document.
How quickly do they need to provide
There's not
that
a
to you?
hard and fast rule.
Okay.
It depends upon the nature. If I requested 10,000 pages of records, it's ridiculous to say, well, you got to get it to me in a week. Okay. So it's case by case evaluation, but prompt means pretty quick.
Okay.
So there are situations where, I think I saw one case where somebody requested an accident report and it wasn't provided in 48 hours. And the Supreme Court of Ohio said that takes too long. That's too long. That's not prompt.
Okay.
So it just depends. It's fact specific. So
Okay.
hard to answer that. Now, if it's not a bunch of documents, past a month, in my personal opinion, gets questionable.
Sure.
And for as I'm sitting here today, that's where we're at. We're at a month and I've not received any documents.
And we have a suspended fire chief again
Correct.
for a month. That's
For a
great.
month. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So alongside the Public Records Act, there's the Open Meetings Act. And that is what governs township trustees. It governs political subdivisions. It governs all types of entities. Normally, if you are going to discipline a public employee, if you're going to investigate a public employee, if you are going to suspend a public employee, you are permitted to go into what's called an executive session.
Been quite a few of those.
Yes.
Yep.
Yep. And that's part of what I'm here to talk about.
Yep.
You go into what's called an executive session. You hold a formal roll call vote. Before you go into executive session, you have to specifically articulate the enumerated basis in which you are going into executive session for. If memory serves, there are 5 or 6.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them's got a whole bunch of things about employees. But you have to, if it's going to be about an employee, you have to specifically articulate which one it is. We're going to suspend them. We're going to discipline them. We're going to fire them. We're going to do this. We're going to do that.
After the hearing, like after the
before
executive session.
Before you go into executive session.
Okay, because typically what we hear is like we're going to go in to discuss a complaint regarding a township employee. Like
sure.
that's I feel like that's been 4 or 5 of them over the past 7 meetings.
I think on your we'll talk about that. Yes, so that's an example of it. You're supposed to hold a roll call vote before you go into it. Then whoever the governing body is, could be commissioners, could be trustees, they can invite somebody into the executive session, but the public is out of the executive session.
Like invite just anyone they want.
Right.
Okay.
So theoretically, if it's the employee, you can have the employee come into the executive session.
Okay.
Or we heard an allegation from so-and-so, we're going to bring that. You're not going to say that out loud, but this person's going to come into executive session.
Sure.
Okay. Austin Miller, like any fire chief and like any police chief, by Ohio statute, specifically has the right to a public hearing. And the geniuses that wrote our laws had the wisdom to say that if you independently have the right to a public hearing and you request that public hearing, then that governing body is never allowed to go into executive session to discuss any of those topics: investigation, suspension, discipline.
Okay.
So one of those things that was in my letter that I sent was specifically, as we did the last time. So, I mean, that big hearing that we had in the garage, the only reason that's public is because I said I want a public hearing.
Okay.
I mean, if he wasn't the fire chief, they don't have to do that in public.
Okay.
But because he's the fire chief and because I say I want a public hearing, I get a public hearing.
Okay.
Otherwise, you violate his right and it's all a waste of time. Okay? So that's why that's a public hearing.
Understood.
So that's Austin Miller saying, I want everybody to know if I'm terminated, why I'm terminated.
Yep.
I think that's important for understanding what took place on December 15th. But regardless of that, that letter that I sent specifically apprised them of that. I can't even read it. Chief Miller, once again, expressly exercises his right to have all deliberations regarding his appointment held in public, as he is a public official entitled to a public hearing.
Okay.
Now, that's not a close question. We got lots of case law about that issue. Okay? So you can't say, oh, we didn't know that. If you have legal counsel and your legal counsel does research, you're going to know that. Now, my understanding is...
And so when did you send that to the township?
That is May 26, 2026.
Did you send that to the trustees? Or
Yes,
okay.
Directly to the trustees and to their counsel.
Okay.
So, because I didn't want them, if there's going to be some discussions about him, in my personal opinion, the public is entitled to know about. That's simple facts. We are members of the public. We want to know what's going on. My understanding is at the meeting they just held this week, they went into executive session to discuss punishment of a public employee or discipline of a public employee.
I didn't write it down, but it was something like that. Yep.
Okay. Well, if whoever has told me that,
I think it was
correct.
discipline.
Okay.
Yep.
And that's about Austin Miller. That's a blatant violation of the Open Meetings Act.
But we don't know if it was about Austin.
Sure, but we should be allowed to know who it was about.
Does that individual have to ask for it to be public, like the way that you did with that email?
My point on that would be, if it's not the case, then the trustees should be able to say, well, we weren't talking about him.
Do they have to be asked that? I mean, is that an obligation to put it out there?
To the extent, I mean, there's a pending public record request about all that types of information. So one, I would say yes, but two, I would think as a matter of just a cynical politics, you would want to be able to answer that question. Because if we have that many public employees getting disciplined, we probably have a problem in Shawnee Township.
Yeah, there's something going on in Shawnee Township.
Sure.
I'm not sure what it is.
Yeah, I'm not either. But that would be my concern. So that missive, that letter has been sent. So they know that if they've read it, I suppose it's possible that they didn't read my letter. It'd be weird that I met with legal counsel and he knew about it, but
It was clear that legal knew that there's been public records requests, but the fiscal officer made it clear that he had not received any public records requests.
Okay.
Maybe he misremembered in the meeting, but that was something that was clearly stated in the past meeting.
that there was not a public record.
And legal made it clear that there were public records requests that had been sent by your team.
Okay. So those two things paired together kind of fill in the landscape, as it were, of what a public body has to comply with.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So my suspicion, and I say my suspicion because I don't know things as a certain fact, but my suspicion based upon the public documents that I've been able to get from other sources, not from the township, and my old power of deductive reasoning, is that there were private meetings, not at public sessions, to talk about Chief Miller. So, and here's my point on that. Or one of two things happened. So, for example, I think it's May 11th is when they vote to suspend him.
May 11th, yep.
So there's actually a video of that online.
Martin Scorsese was sitting in the room that day. So, I mean, it was the craziest thing. So I don't know if you've seen Moneyball, the movie.
I love Moneyball.
So I'm sitting there.
How can you not be romantic about baseball?
Exactly. So I'm sitting there, and then this kind of unassuming, odd-looking gentleman walks past the door on the side and not into the meeting. So we kind of caught a few people's eyes. One of the former employees walked back, just checked on him, make sure. He goes, "Yep, it's good." A couple of people were like, "Do you know who that guy was?" But anyway, so that was kind of like the who was that guy? Who was that guy thing where Jonah Hill talks to somebody and then suddenly just the world changes. And so that was clearly the lawyer from the state or whoever that came in. But yeah, they came back. This is my perspective.
Sure.
I was worried about Kenny Gross, one of the trustees, because he looked like I didn't know if he was about to get fired or let go or whatever. But the shock that was on his face. Now I don't know if Paul knew. I don't know if anyone knew. I don't know anything.
Sure.
But I do know Martin Scorsese was sitting in the front row, ready to capture that on video. And I mean, it was a perfect video, perfect angle, perfect frame.
Well, my understanding, and now I'm going into investigation here, so I don't mean to do this and we can get off it. But my understanding is you or the podcast in general or whatever goes to the meetings and does like independent minutes.
Yeah, and I try to make it clear, please don't just take my word. Go to the meetings yourself.
Right.
Ask questions yourself. This is just my perspective. I misinterpret things.
My thought would be, if you're a public body, why is there not just a camera set up that shows?
The day that happens is the day I get to stop typing notes.
Okay.
I can't wait.
I
can't wait.
Frankly, that would be your best insurance policy against somebody like me. But anyways, well, let me ask this. So then the ones you go to, is there normally somebody recording?
There has been somebody recording. I mean, somebody recorded me doing a statement one time.
Okay.
But typically, there's not somebody just recording video that way. There's normally somebody recording audio there, but it's very rare that you see somebody have their phone out recording any video. Now, it was unique that they said, we're going to have something after executive session. We're gonna come back. So that was a unique thing.
Okay.
They made it clear that, like, hey, you guys might want to stick around because there will be further discussion after executive session that'll be notable to the public. Every other time executive session happens, they say, this is the end of the meeting. There's nothing else that'll be happening after this. You guys can stick around, but we're not going to be coming back in this room and doing anything else additional.
So
in
that's
this
the
meeting.
first time they have ever said, hold on, we're going to come back.
Now, I'm very short in my time going to township
Well,
meetings. I mean, we're going back to November, something like that, since I started this podcast.
Fair enough.
But in my experience going to meetings, that was the first time they'd ever made it clear that after executive session, there would be additional follow-up things that might be notable to the public.
Okay.
That's all I knew.
Okay. Some indication of something of public importance was going to take place.
Correct. So it's fair that in that moment, somebody decided to pull out their phone and videotape it.
That gives a little bit of context for it. But so let me go into that. And sorry if I just burped.
It's okay.
I didn't mean to do that. First time on a podcast. So as I have it, and I have copies of all of their meeting minutes, but my understanding based upon their meeting minutes from that day and from the video that I've seen is that they go into executive session. Now, they do not vote to go into executive session to suspend a public employee.
Correct.
They go into executive session and I think this is the second time in a row, if my memory of the meeting minutes is correct, but they vote to go into executive session because of the complaint of a public employee. So there's nothing indicating to the public there's a suspension or discipline that's going to be discussed. They go into executive session. They then come out of executive session. And the first thing that they do once they reconvene is read a prepared statement.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that's Trustee Neff reads a prepared statement.
Correct. He is president's the wrong word, but he's the chairman of the trustees or something.
So let's go to the law on that.
Okay.
And once again, I'm an attorney. All these things are my opinion and my interpretation of the law, but I think it's a pretty well established precedent here. You are not allowed to vote in an executive session. You are not allowed to go into an executive session for the purpose of predetermining a vote. And the hallmark sign of predetermining a vote is when a public body commences an executive session, comes out of executive session, and holds a vote on the record with no discussion as to what they're going to be voting on. Because the natural indication is, if we all know how we're going to vote, we decided how we're going to vote in the session.
That's the feeling I had sitting there. They did vote afterwards. They claimed that that's what was going to happen, and didn't provide any. I don't know what he's under investigation for. So, but they voted, and clearly, whatever the Moneyball guy said, they said, okay, we got to put him under suspension.
Okay. So the most bizarre thing, in my opinion, if you're looking at this as an attorney, is not only do they come out of executive session and they already know how they're going to vote, they have drafted a prepared statement, and they have drafted a resolution to suspend him. Now, I suppose it's possible that for the love of the game, they also drafted a resolution that didn't suspend him, but that would be very odd to me.
It's a charitable interpretation.
Sure. So then the question becomes, who prepared those resolutions? Who prepared that public statement? If you just went into executive session to talk about this, and mind you, you have still not voted, but you have a prepared press release.
Yes.
To talk about why you're going to suspend a public employee. While I don't foreclose the possibility of a miracle, in my mind, there's about a 0.00000 add 30 on that 1% chance that you didn't make your mind up outside of a public session.
Well, but what would be the difference between them talking in an executive session and then coming out and saying it in front of the public? Like, do you think like the public is going to stand up and rally against, and then that's going to sway the minds of the trustees?
No. Here would be my point: is only bad things happen in secrecy. So one, they will have not complied with Ohio law. They will have ignored his right to a public hearing. Okay. They will have voted to suspend him. But the bigger concern, if I'm a member of the public, if I'm a citizen of Shawnee Township, and I think, I don't know, maybe March 23rd meeting minutes, I think a lady named, don't hold me to it, I think a lady named Stacy Brenneman took the floor and said she thought that they decided things outside of public session.
I don't know if that was the date, but I do recall her standing up and delivering something similar to that.
So there's somebody that independently thinks that. But the thing that would
there's
be
a few people that do.
Sure. But the thing that would be most concerning is the fact that public business is being conducted outside of public session. And that's how, I'm not saying that's the case, but that is how corruption happens. All right. That's how conspiracies take place. That's how, basically wrongdoings flourish. I mean, let me put it this way. It's the 25th episode of the podcast.
That's correct.
Yeah. You said that. I think it's also interesting. I don't know if it's a good omen or bad, but this next week, our country's going to be celebrating its 250th anniversary.
That's right.
All right. Well, and I'm going to play a little bit on, put my heart on my sleeve here, but we as a nation are the benefactors of the foresight and the genius, in my opinion, of 55 unique men who 250 years ago gathered together for a 4-month constitutional convention and drafted our Constitution. And underneath that Constitution then are the laws of the state and the federal laws. And we are all proud, or should be proud, of an adage that I think is eternal in our country, which is the saying that it's to be a country of laws, not of men.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people don't know where that comes from. If memory serves, that actually comes from the original Constitution of the state of Massachusetts. That to the end, this is to be a nation of laws, not of men. And so when our legislature, the General Assembly, has said, if you are a public body, this is how you are to conduct a public meeting, and this is how you are to allow the public to know what's going on so we all can see it, and you don't comply with that, if we as citizens do not take issue with it and we do not stand up for our laws and for our rights, then they will be taken away from us inch by inch. And by the time that you and me are old men, our children will not know the adage, a nation of laws and not of men, because it will be a nation of men and not of laws.
Sure.
And so this is, in my opinion, bigger than Chief Miller. It's bigger than me. It's bigger than you. But the thing, and I'm going on a rant here, you can stop me anytime.
No, you're.
But the thing that came out, and I'm, frankly, I'm a little disappointed the news didn't report on that. But the thing that came out at the last hearing was not only did the prior trustees have their meetings, and that was somewhat questionable on how that was conducted, in my opinion, but the investigator that
I can't remember her name.
Sure,
but yep.
sure. Her name, sorry, I can't recall at the moment, but she agreed with me that they had been having non-public sessions regularly where they met with all of the heads of the departments of the township and were determining township business. I mean, that's like a bright line no-no.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
Well, I don't want to interrupt you, but like we keep kind of skirting around. I do. You touched on the Sunshine Law earlier,
Sure.
And the way that I interpret the Sunshine Law in terms of like how it seems like either the school board or the township has to deal with it is the main thing is two trustees can't be talking to each other outside of the meeting.
Yes.
Now, I mean, I would imagine they can talk about the football game. They can sit down, have a beer, beat up, something like that.
You can even have what's called an informational session. So you can bring somebody in a non-public meeting, like your own legal counsel, like an expert, like a member of the public, to get information. But you can't decide township business. That's where it breaks apart.
So, like my impression is I couldn't have two trustees on my podcast at the same time because then that would be considered a public meeting if we were discussing public business.
It could be.
Okay.
I mean, if it doesn't touch on township business at all, hey, they can go to a ball game together. That's not a problem.
But so doesn't that make that difficult? I mean, we got two new trustees
Sure.
In the house, and thank goodness Joe's kind of holding the reins together because the number of times they're just fumbling over what's the proper procedure, yay, nay, all these things. Joe's kind of holding things together with his experience out there. But I don't know if I'm in this situation, I'm one of these trustees, how can I possibly have a conversation internally? Like, how can I learn more about this without being in a public setting, without breaking this Sunshine Law? Like, how is Kenny supposed to talk to Paul or Kenny supposed to talk to Joe about this investigation, which is important, without breaking the Sunshine Law?
Sure. So to the extent that you need to have a meeting and talk about the investigation, there's a lot of hypotheticals you can entertain here, but one hypothetical that you can entertain is, for example, a trustee on his own could talk to me, could say, Dalton, I want to have a meeting with the other trustees. I want for us to be able to talk about this. This is what I want to talk about. And would Chief Miller waive his right to a public hearing for that specific meeting? Okay, that could be done. Sure. I'll let you go into that executive session and talk about it with that understanding, with that express understanding of why you're going into executive session. And then, like I said, and I think this is the bigger point, and I'm not trying to paint anybody in a corner here, but that's the purpose of your counsel. So, I mean, personally, and the reason I would say I know a lot of this stuff is I am counsel for several public agencies, and I sit on several public boards. So, one, as an attorney, I am hypersensitive to those things.
Sure.
But two is that's why you retain legal counsel. So, I mean, and this is something that I don't understand is I don't understand how the way the prior hearing turned out, how that was conducted, how that was done. I don't understand if counsel is involved, how that happens. And frankly, I don't know how after all.
What do you mean by that?
Well, first of all, as a public employee, Chief Miller has a constitutional right to due process. I, as a God-fearing American, have a hard time believing that any court in our country would say that if you have to sit in an unheated garage for 8 hours to defend yourself and your job, regardless of the outcome, that satisfies due process. Because due process, my friend, requires that you have the opportunity to a meaningful hearing. And personally, it was difficult and I'm not a small boy. Sure. So personally, for me, it was hard to proceed in a condition like that.
I'm sure. Those meetings in there were cold.
Sure, and I don't know why we're doing that.
They had the heaters blaring back there, so those were loud, kicking on. And
from my understanding, the fire department's right there, and it's got heat. So why are we not doing it in the fire department?
Well,
but I mean, that's a constitutional right. That's something that he should be concerned about. But, just the whole nature of that. And then, speaking selfishly, I don't want to play against myself here, but speaking selfishly, I am going to expose myself. I did listen to one episode of the podcast, and I don't know if it was you or is it Matt?
Matt.
Okay, Matt. I don't know which one of you it was, but it did make me laugh when I heard it, and this was pretty recent. But it's probably the first public proceeding that used the word pickleball.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
I think that was Matt.
Okay.
Yep.
Somebody said that.
Yep.
And I'm like, that's true.
Yep.
And to a degree, I mean, I've never played pickleball. I'm sure it's a great sport.
I did it one time.
Sure.
Not bad.
Sure. But I mean, 7 months for pickleball? 7 months of secrecy for pickleball?
There was 5 things. So,
sure.
But
you couldn't say pickleball.
Pickleball was secret.
Sure.
And the other thing that's so frustrating about it is like these rumors swirl, and there's people that are close enough that know.
Sure.
And so people start to kind of figure out what's going on. So like, what's the point of keeping this a secret at this point?
Well, I don't. I'm just talking as a private tactician here, I suppose, but I don't know how that benefited the trustees.
Well, clearly it did not benefit
Sure.
the previous trustees.
Sure.
As the election would show.
Well, yeah. I mean, you also have the facts of the election, but I just mean, because you would think, oh, this has been going on all this time. You would think he murdered a guy.
Yeah. Well, and so like, I'll ask you, and you can. I don't know what you're allowed to tell me, but
Sure.
like, this is now a state level investigation this time, which makes me a little bit like,
Sure.
okay, what's going on here? Can you disclose anything that he's being investigated? Like you said, 5 or 6 things.
So that's not state.
Okay.
So that was my point. I think, once again, this is my personal opinion. I think that press release was dishonest.
Okay.
I have a hard time, and I don't know who drafted it. It was at least inaccurate. Because to me, let me start with this, okay? Like I said, I'm not here because Austin asked me to do it. I'm not getting paid anything. Part of the reason that I'm here, I would say, is penance. Because the day that there was that article in the Lima News, that was waiting for me on my desk when I came into my office.
Mm-hmm.
Now, mind you, and obviously I have attorney-client confidentiality and whatnot, but since doing the hearing, I had never talked to Austin Miller. I mean, honestly.
Yep.
So I had talked to him all that time. So the first time his name comes, back into my life that's waiting for me on my desk. And even having gone through everything that I went through with him the last time, and, it's maybe not a good thing. I don't know. I have different opinions, but when you're, once again, pontificating here, but when you're a man in the United States, speaking personally here, and you're a kid, Nobody asks you, who do you want to be? They ask you, what do you want to do? Mm-hmm. Because part, in my opinion, of being a man in the United States of America is your job. It's your profession. Mm-hmm. It's what you do. It's your identity.
Yep.
Right? That's why I can never imagine my father retiring, because he's so identified with what he does for a profession. And I've never been in there, and I hope I'm never in that position. I've not ever been in the position of having to be publicly embarrassed, and I would say emasculated, and barred from doing what I love for 7 months. Mm-hmm. And then having gone through all of that to then have it happen a second time. Mm-hmm. I personally cannot even imagine what that would do to me.
It was shocking to sit there.
Sure. But what I do know is that when that was on my desk, I personally doubted. Because you think to yourself, as I think any reasonable, rational person does, he must have done something. Mm-hmm. He must have done something terrible. Mm-hmm. You have to think that to yourself.
And there was some of that talk out there. Public.
Sure.
No one involved with the township.
But why would we ever be back here? Mm-hmm. Right? And it wasn't until I was asked to get involved a second time.
And you just waiting for that phone call?
I didn't reach out.
Okay.
So, but it wasn't until I got involved for the second time. I have a deep sense of shame. There's and I'm not saying I'm a particularly religious man, but there's a concept called doubting Thomas that comes from one of the apostles, Thomas, doubted that Christ came back after he died. Mm-hmm. And there's just the nature of my job, just the nature of who I am. I am not a man of doubts. I typically have pretty strong conviction. I never in a million years, if you had asked me, would tell you or would have thought that I would be a doubting Thomas. And I have to bear that badge of shame because I doubted. Mm-hmm. So, and I'm, that's probably the wisdom of that book, which is called The Good Book. But having said that, as I sit here today, and once again, don't know who drafted it, don't know who put it together, don't know who told him to put it out. But if I have any firm conviction, the firm conviction that I have is the purpose of that news announcement was to ensure that the next time that I have to hold a hearing, regardless of whether it's in a 5-degree garage or not, whether it's 8 hours or 10 or 2, that the best weapon that I had, which is those people from Shawnee Township and other places, I'm sure, who cared, who gave a damn, who showed up, will not be there. And so, and that's frankly why I'm here, is because otherwise I'm going to tear my skin off because I'm not able to do anything right now, is that I'm telling you that I care, that I give a damn, and then I'm going to show up. And so to the extent that I've been provided an explanation, which I'm still not sure that I have, it's paper thin would be an injustice. And so the difficult position that I am in is I am only allowed to talk to the content of my mind. So I can't say anything on behalf of Chief Miller.
Yep.
I can only say what I think and what I know and what I've observed. But I know that just like me, you doubted. And I'm here to say that's okay. The problem is when we know that those facts are not there, that it might be, and I say might be, because once again, I don't know everything. I only know what I know. But to the extent it might be exactly what it was the last time, we are going to need you to show up. Because regardless, I think it was Matt. I don't know if it was you, because that same podcast, somebody gave me kudos for doing a good job or something.
Oh, that's probably me. I'm the nice guy.
Sure. Somebody gave me kudos.
Well, because it was, it was a little theatrical. Sure. I was watching from a plane. But it was crazy. There's yelling, there's pounding on tables. You were like, even after things ended and there was sour, like, you're like, with prejudice, yeah. And demanding that. And it's just like, what this, it was, I don't like that it's happening in the township.
Sure.
Quite frankly, I don't like that we're paying you whatever we're paying you.
Sure. Well, you guys aren't paying me.
Well, okay. Is it coming out of the fire union or something, or is it coming direct from Chief Miller?
Well, I mean, I probably can't talk about that.
Okay, but I just assume the township's paying for this somehow because like last time there was a lawsuit against the township.
Sure.
So just touch on that. What was the legal strategy in creating that lawsuit against the township?
Sure. So first of all, obviously that matter was resolved.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm not going to talk about terms of settlement, but I will talk about my mindset. Is first of all, I come into that. At most it was 10 days before that hearing, and so I really didn't sleep during that time period. I'm just working through everything that I can, and I found in the public records things that I don't have now, which were given last time. That's how you know it's a public record. But what I thought was a very substantial claim. Sorry, I keep burping.
It's okay.
But the thing that was obvious to me as an outsider, and once again, until I was retained, and really it was Al that the communication came through, but until we were contacted, I didn't know anything about what was going on. So, I mean, I got to get up to speed, lightning speed. But,
there was a lot going on.
Sure. But the thing that I thought, which I'm sure every member of the public thought and wanted to know, is what is happening?
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't have something like this, and if I had known about you guys, maybe that's something that could have been done. But the only way to articulate your point to the public is if I file a lawsuit and say what the facts are, then anybody can go and get that and read it.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, between you and me, we don't know when we show up for that hearing that they're even going to let us talk.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad they did.
They don't know if they're going to let you talk?
Right. Well, I mean, that was the big thing about that is a lot of that was personal involvement by the trustees. They, to my understanding and based upon I've never had a report like that. The investigator's report, and I don't know that she could have done it any other way based upon, what I presume she was told to do. But, when you have a report that says at least one person said, okay, well, is that one person? Or, that's just kind of bizarre. And then, you might think it's silly, but the fact he part of his right to a public hearing is he has the right of cross-examination. Well, and that's a genius thing that our founders did. And I can go into why, but I'm not going to bore you with it. But if I don't know who you are, I can't cross-examine you.
Mm-hmm.
So the bizarre thing about that hearing is nobody with personal knowledge testified. It was just an investigator who heard what somebody else said. Well, our courts of law refer to that as hearsay. A matter, asserted the truth that's outside of the courtroom.
Yep.
Okay. Well, that's not admissible. There's a couple exceptions. If you say it out loud, right, excited utterance, etc. Okay, well, then it can come in. Statement of a party opponent. Okay, then it can come in. But an unidentified person said something about you. Well, that's no different than the Star Courts, which is why we founded this country, which is we're going to haul you back to England and we're going to try you in a Star Court and you're not going to know who's testifying against you. And then we're going to convict you. All right, well, if there's anything that is deeply un-American, it's that. So, and I should probably stop playing with that because that's going to get annoying. But anyways, I lost my track. What was I
It's
talking
okay.
about?
You were talking about Star Courts. And
Sure, Star Courts, all that stuff. But, so, I mean, there was a whole public record there that anybody had the right to. And I don't know how many people requested public records or not, et cetera, what was involved in that case. But the strategy there was, and frankly, when I held that hearing, in my mind, if one trustee voted no, I did my job. And then that's why I always say that's why God invented the Court of Appeals. You appeal the decision, and then you get in front of a judge, and the judge says, no, you can't have an 8-hour hearing in a 5-degree garage and not provide anybody. I think we requested quite a few people be subpoenaed to come testify. No subpoenas were issued.
Yeah, did you expect to come out of that thing a winner? Because I know going into that,
Sure.
The assumption from me and some of the people kind of close to things, it just said that he's getting fired today. Even speaking on a personal level, I did not
in any world envision the result that happened that day. As far as if you ask me, the purpose of that meeting was colloquially, not literally, to line him up against the wall and shoot him. I mean, in my mind,
Well, they had a target behind them.
True.
Or behind the township.
True. I mean, that when somebody says you're not going to be allowed to cross-examine anybody when a statute says you get to, and we're not going to identify who said what, and we're not going to let you ask trustees questions even though that they supposedly provided testimony against them, and that's the whole basis of the discipline, then you say, okay, well, the game's rigged, but eventually I get to have a court involved, and maybe after everybody forgets, you'll be a little blurb in the Lima News, and it says, oh, the Court of Common Pleas or the 3rd District overturned it, and it's got to go back, and everybody will have forgotten, and everybody won't care anymore. But what happened, I couldn't plan that day better, I don't think. And what happened live, it was as sudden and unplanned for me as it was for everybody watching. Because I wasn't allowed to ask anybody a question ahead of time.
Sure.
I didn't know who was going to say what. I just had to prepare. And so that's what I did. Whether it was 10 days or 7 days, I did nothing but prepare. And it paid off. I think I was sick for the next 3 days, but it paid off.
It kind of felt like a boxing match when just things are kind of going back and forth and you don't know what's going to happen. And then suddenly you just, I don't know when you did it,
Sure.
but you landed a haymaker and then the crowd started to say, uh-oh,
Sure. Well,
he's stumbling.
in my personal opinion, and there's actually, do we have a time constraint?
No,
Okay.
I mean, we just got to be out of here, within the next hour.
Okay. And I'd come back if you wanted me to, but
Great.
in my opinion, and this was, I don't think really reported on, but what came out at the hearing, once again, if memory serves, I don't know, there's a transcript, but that investigation had been done for months. And I can't recall if it was 1 week or 2 weeks that she originally testified, but the investigator testified that she had specifically been told not to prepare a report, and that approximately a week or 2 weeks, whatever it was, before she had provided the report, she had been contacted, and I don't think it was actual current counsel. I think there was like a second counsel for I can't recall what their name was, but had contacted her and said, okay, write the report. And if whatever it was 1 week or 2 weeks, I can't remember specifically, but if you overlined those dates, it would have been on or about the date the trustees discovered they lost their election.
That was a tough night, I'm sure, for those individuals.
But if my memory serves, and that's what lines up, then that was the motivating factor, even though the investigation had been done for months, why she was finally told to write her report. And I think that was too subtle, so it wasn't picked up on. But that, I think, was the death blow for the prosecution. Because everything we're talking about, in my personal opinion, didn't amount to a hill of beans. Pickleball court. I mean, and I don't hold it against them. This stuff gets confusing. In the article they put on the day he got suspended, I think the Lima News said he was previously subject to an allegation of like falsification because he had changed a record.
Well, and to be fair, I think that is the one thing that he could say, go back in time. Maybe you should have done that a little bit differently.
Sure, but I just want to be specific on, as I understand the facts of that based upon the hearing.
Yep.
There was never a prior record. It was some member of the department, and I'm not going to say it, but used the N-word rigged.
Yep.
Towards an inanimate object.
Yep.
And they needed to be written up. And I don't know if it was a battalion chief or what it was, but they came to him and said, what should I write? And he said, inappropriate language. There was, and I've never been provided a copy of it, which should exist if that's true. But I think the Lima News said he had told them to change what they had written, and that's nowhere in the public record.
Okay.
So it was just a statement of inappropriate language. If somebody in my office did it and they had to get rid of, I wouldn't want to use the word.
Oh, see, I thought the change part was a real thing that he did. He asked that to happen. So that's just public word. That's just the old rumor mill swirling.
During that hearing, first of all, nobody other than the investigator testified.
Mm-hmm.
And I have never been provided a copy of what was changed, nor have I been given testimony for somebody that said, oh, we prepared it and put it in a file. And then he said, no, that's bad. You need to change it.
Okay.
My understanding is they said, what do you want me to write down? And he said inappropriate language. And then he made him do like a DEI training.
Good.
Because you shouldn't use that word.
Yeah, you
so
shouldn't.
that person got disciplined.
Yep.
But he didn't say, oh, don't put that on his I mean, we in school, you learn a permanent record. That's not really a thing. But,
that was when I learned that jerry rig is apparently a bad thing.
word.
So I'm gonna get thrown under the bus.
I got
now.
chastised for that.
I'm getting canceled for saying jerry rig.
I guess I watched too many World War II movies, seen Fury and Saving Private Ryan too much. But
okay, so you've done a good job. Like, it doesn't sound like you can directly speak to what is being investigated.
I can directly speak on a couple things.
Can you give me a couple things, and then like a timeline of like maybe when these things happened?
So, and this is what I have from a public record request. So let me start with this. Would you entertain a hypothetical?
You can certainly. This is an open mic.
Okay, so let's say this. Let's say local exchange is the correct name for this?
Yes.
Okay, so me and you own or are partners in the local exchange podcast, Matt too, or you know, whatever. And where it's going gangbusters. So we got a department of like 100 people.
Heck yeah.
Okay. And so we think we'd like to hold an event.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd like to do an event for breast cancer awareness.
Let's do it. Let's do it in October.
Sure. There you go. So you, me, and the fly on the wall get together and we say, well, our office manager probably doesn't want to spend that money on shirts. Mm-hmm. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to get an envelope. Well, 100 people is probably too much. Let's make it 15. We're going to get a big envelope. And if you want a shirt, we got a quote. It's going to be $17 a shirt. So you bring me your $17. I say it. You bring me your $17. We do an office meeting or whatever. You bring me your $17, and I'll scratch your name off on this envelope and put that money in the envelope. And when we got everybody's money, we'll buy the shirts. Okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Pretty normal, I guess.
Then for whatever reason, I go out of the office for the next 7 months.
Okay.
Or 5. Let's say 5 months. In the interim, while I'm out of the office, an invoice comes in for those shirts.
Okay.
And it comes across your desk.
Mm-hmm.
And you know that the money that I had gathered for the shirts from everybody, their $17 and scratch their names off, is sitting in my desk. What do you do?
Well, if I know the money's sitting in your desk,
yes.
I mean, I'd probably just take the money out of your desk and, say, hey, here's the money for those shirts.
All right. You would not call the cops on me. You would not make a referral for criminal prosecution for theft.
Oh. Okay. So, yeah, no, I wouldn't do that to answer your question.
And so, I don't
over $200 or $300 worth of shirt money that I collected from my fellow employees and maybe friends.
So, I have here with me, and this is a public record. Okay. Now, I didn't submit this public record. A good member of the community submitted this one. And these are documents that I have either from BCI or from the AG's office.
Okay.
And I'm just going to read what they requested.
Okay.
Okay. So I have here a letter from May 26, 2026 from Dave Yost, the Attorney General's office.
So this is after he got suspended.
This is after he's been suspended.
Yep.
So this Good Samaritan immediately made a request, and this has been shared with me. Says, I am writing to confirm that the Ohio Attorney General's office has processed your records request you submitted on May 15th. So this person did this within like 4 days.
Right on it.
God bless them. And regarding, quote, I am requesting a copy of the original complaint, intake report, and or any initial incident or referral documentation related to any investigation conducted by the Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigation involving Fire Chief Austin Miller of the Shawnee Township Fire Department, Allen County, Ohio. I can say this person is not a lawyer. They did an excellent job being very specific.
Okay.
They say, please find included with this response letter, the responsive records related to your request. Note that redactions have been made, which include And so we have already talked about when you have a request under Public Records Act, if you're not going to provide something, you got to tell me why.
Yep.
So they're saying we did a redaction, and this is why we did the redaction.
They explain why?
Yes.
Okay.
And frankly, I think this is a little silly because we heard who they requested it for. But the next paragraph reads, this is the reason why. Uncharged suspects redacted. Rationale. The identities of individuals who at one point were thought to have potentially committed a crime but were not charged with an offense constitutes a confidential law enforcement investigatory record. We call that a clear record.
Okay.
So at one point, this person was suspected, but they have not been charged.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
This concludes our response to your records request. Okay. So that is what these documents are attached to.
Okay.
But the big thing is their rationale is they didn't say we're not going to provide the record because we have an active investigation.
Yep.
They said all we're going to do is redact the name because we don't want to prejudice this person because at one point they were suspected of something, but they didn't get charged. Okay?
Okay.
So, because if you're a public agency, if I got an active criminal investigation into you and I got internal memorandum and I got all this stuff, I'm not giving you that. I'm not giving you that either until the investigation is closed and or until there's been a trial and you're either acquitted or convicted.
Okay.
Is my personal opinion. But here they're saying, we're going to give it to you, but we're not going to have the name in it because that person never got charged.
But the request was specific to Chief Miller.
Correct. So that's why I think it's silly because it said, give me something if it's about Austin Miller. And they say, well,
they wouldn't give it about somebody random. I
Sure.
mean, you
No,
wouldn't
'cause it's
reply
only
and give it
about
about my malfeasance. It
Correct.
would be specifically about him.
So there are 2 redactions in the document that has been provided.
Okay.
And I'll hand them to you.
It's
so
better
you
than
can
the
see.
Epstein files.
Very true. Another example of why we should have more transparency in government. And you can look at them yourself, but basically what they have attached is an email chain. And I'm not going to, we can decide, but at this point I'm not going to name them because I don't want to create bad blood.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
I agree with that.
But between 3 township employees,
Mm-hmm. When is this dated?
This is October 17th, 2025.
Okay.
So, and my point about talking about this, and I was shocked when it was given to me, is
October 27th, 2025. Okay.
17th.
Okay. Yep.
This is before I represent him.
Yep. This is last year.
I mean, this man has been suspended at this point
quite some time.
for 5 months.
Yep.
And my point in sharing this is because, in my opinion, for whatever reason, the obsession with getting him never stopped. Okay? But what we have is an email chain that's October 17th, 2025 at 2:42 p.m., 56 seconds p.m. A copy of an invoice is sent to then within approximately 18 minutes, forwards that to somebody with the police department.
So like the invoice from a company invoiced, send it to, got it.
And then, in turn, that member of the police department forwards it to a BCI investigator, dated 10/16/2025, redaction, which the only thing that I have is redacted as a name,
Yep.
theft in office. Okay?
Okay.
And then what I also have is an October 24th, 2025 letter from the AG's office once again, that states that member of the department's name and says that they are going to decline to investigate.
So the state declined last year to investigate this when this was brought forward.
Yes. So, and you can...
Is there, just out of curiosity, is there any record of, there being contact to Chief Miller to ask if there's money or anything like that?
So the only way that, from how I understand
essentially assume, I operate on the assumption that people are operating in good faith.
Sure.
And if he's your fire chief and you hired him, and even if he's under investigation, do you really think that he, if you don't contact him first,
Sure.
and you go straight to the state,
Sure.
you're just completely eliminating any possibility that there's good faith there. Is that
My understanding is He was never, ever asked about that. So, mind you, if this is true, and once again, this is from the AG's office, as I understand it, if this is true, then he's been suspended for 5 months. And so, in essence, what happens, using my deductive reasoning and a little bit of know-how that I have, that invoice for those breast cancer awareness shirts shows up, okay? And I don't want to say the business either because this isn't their fault.
On 10/16/25, invoice shows up.
Probably shows up again.
Yep.
Because it hasn't been paid because he's suspended. I mean, he is not allowed to go back to the office. He's not allowed to talk to firefighters. He's not allowed to do anything during his prior suspension.
I mean, when did they collect money? I guess when were these breast cancer awareness shirts done? Is this 20 like because
it would be in 2025. I don't know the specific date.
Well, because he's I mean, I guess he was collecting money before May 30th.
Sure, probably because he would have been suspended 5 months, so October 16th, maybe before May 30th.
I don't know. They're getting ahead of the game, collecting money for breast cancer awareness shirts.
The thing that's most shocking about this to me is that allegation doesn't even make sense. So if I understand correctly, and once again, I'm assuming logic by people, but to the extent there would be a theft in office, it would have to have been public money that was stolen, right? My understanding is, and I've still not been given a copy of this, but I'm told it exists, is that invoice was marked so they knew about that money and they knew the purpose of that money. I have no good explanation for that without some type of disclosure that was anything other than numbskulled attempt to create a criminal charge. And nobody ever asked him about it. And when he went back into, that environment, nobody ever disclosed to him that had happened. I mean,
is this something that, during the legal process, so this
was never disclosed, despite all of the public record requests, even though that hearing's in December.
Any request that you submitted would have covered something like this, and this happened before that time period.
In prior counsel. So, I mean, this was never disclosed. Now, mind you, whoever the but the person who knows their job at the AG's office provided that because they say, well, that's a public record.
Yep.
That's not a secret. But I mean, even if nothing comes of it, I would think the public would want to know somebody accused a government official of theft.
Yeah, I'd want to know. And I'd want some context behind it because theft, like what level? Are we talking, stealing taxpayer money?
Sure.
In this case, stealing the firefighter department money,
but
the individual firefighters.
Sure. But once again, not going to say the name, but my understanding is that's one of potentially two written statements provided to the BCI investigator by that member of the police department. And that says on October 16th, is when I discovered this allegation. And the emails that I just showed you is on October 17th, where that information was transferred and provided. So if I'm using my deductive reasoning, there was a meeting somewhere because within a half hour.
It moved quick.
Within a half hour.
That's the one thing I've noticed from this.
Yes. Within a half hour, they can do this real quick, but for some reason they can't give me records in a month. Within a half hour, that information has been conveyed through 3 different persons. And if you look at the last email in the chain with the member of the police department, there is an attachment. This one. There's an attachment.
Stay in front of that mic. Your audio will be way better.
I'm sorry. I've watched too much Joe Rogan and Young.
Put a fist in front of that mic.
Between the mic, yeah. There is a period DOC, which means a Word document. Mm-hmm. Attached as under the attachment section as redacted theft in office. And that is 3:12 p.m. So if you're only going off this and you didn't have that statement I just provided you, between 2:42 p.m., really 2:43 p.m., and 3:12, a invoice has gone through 3 members of Shawnee Township, 3 employees of Shawnee Township, for a criminal referral to the Bureau of Criminal Investigation. And some document with certain allegations. I don't have that document.
Yep.
I would like to have that document. Mm-hmm. But that document has been prepared and attached to an email. And so I find it very hard to believe, whether it's these people in this email chain or somebody else, that there was, because that statement says he first found out on the 16th, which is the day before, that there was not some meeting between employees or, anybody involved with Shawnee Township who decided to take that course of action. Because the thing that we know, I can only operate off of what I know, is what that invoice was for, and who reported it, and where that money was located at. So even though he's not been in there, from my understanding, for 5 or 6 months, somebody has not only reported that, they have gone into his desk and retrieved that money with those people's names on it for breast cancer awareness shirts, and tried to get him criminally prosecuted by the government.
Now, did they find that money?
So I don't know this. My presumption would be that BCI has it.
Okay.
Either the local police department has it, or maybe BCI has it. But
if you're a thief and you're sitting on money, a couple $100, whatever it is, for like 5-6 months, you're not a very good thief.
Sure. Also, theoretically, I suppose if that's the allegation, it could be a bribe, but I would hope a government official can't be bribed for $17.
Okay. So that is one of the. That's one of the things
as I sit here today, that's the only public record that has been produced by either BCI or the AG's office. So now, and there's obviously the declination in October.
Yeah, so they declined it in October. Why did this come back then?
That's here's my point where I said I'm going to be honest about what I don't know.
Yep.
I don't know why it comes back.
Yep.
I have a suspicion, but suspicion's not good enough to make a public statement on.
Sure.
But to the extent that there are potential other charges, they really, in my mind, don't make a lot of sense. But what I was told at the meeting was that and I'm not going to name them, but the allegation was supposedly Chief Miller was targeting a member of the fire department. Now, I can say this member of the fire department was interviewed by the prior investigator during what I would call affectionately the Inquisition, and testified that they loved Chief Miller, that he was a great fire chief. And once again, I don't have a public record. First of all, first time any public employee's complaints, I had it. I don't have it this time. There's no good reason not to give it to me unless you think if I have it, I'm not going to believe you, is my mind. But as I understand it, it has something to do with like PTO, okay?
Okay.
Like time off. And supposedly, if you would believe counsel, that Chief Miller, for some reason, was targeting a firefighter who was willing to publicly testify that they loved him and thought he was a great chief. I don't have specifically what the allegations are. I don't have the basis of the targeting. I don't have a disciplinary record where he wrote them up. I don't have a request where he said fire them. I have no evidence that he ever did anything to this person. And I don't know why I wouldn't have that, because any member of the public should be allowed to have it.
Out of all the stuff you showed me, is that all public record?
What I've shown
I'm
you
not
is
going to
public
put it
record.
out there, but
Sure.
how would someone access if they want it? They just
you would request. I mean, frankly, and I'm going to say this, I was going to close out with that, but if you know something about this, anything about it, whether you think it's speculative or not, I would ask that you contact me. So my email is dsmith@swmclaw.com. My direct dial is 419-224-5147. I am in the position of the township either is dragging its feet or decided it's not going to share information with me. And for better or for worse, I have to do my duty and I have to figure out what the truth is here. So to the extent that you know something, whether it's something was said outside of a meeting or something that's said or alleged, to the extent that you know it, because we really still don't know it, against Austin Miller is untrue, I want to hear from you. But any member of the public is entitled to these records, and if they submit a public record request either to BCI or the AG's office, they should get the same records that this gentleman obtained and shared with me.
So when you're asking people to come to you to bring something to you, you obviously don't want someone who's just like, oh, he's a great guy, and they're just after him. This is a witch hunt. You don't want that. You want substantial things.
If somebody privately told you who's in power that they hate him and want to get him, I'd like to have that conversation.
Okay.
But I think how many other fire departments do you know absolutely anything about?
Well, I mean, you loosely touch on one of the questions I was going to end with is what this doesn't seem like this is going on in other townships. It doesn't seem like there's constant police chiefs getting suspended or fired, or fire chiefs getting suspended or fired. The only time that you hear about other department heads like this or trustees is when there's like major things that happen, whether it's stealing a ton of money, embezzlement, something like that,
sure,
or something significant, and it's a scandalous thing that happens.
Sure.
The thing that bothers me about this, and it's just I kind of play in my head, and I've told Chief Miller kind of jokingly, like, if it turns out that you're a monster, like, you're dead to me, and that is a possibility in this world.
Sure.
There's another possibility, and the public kind of says, oh, they're just people out to get him. But I guess that's the tougher thing is, like, if there's people out to get him and he comes back, well, you nothing has been done about those people.
No.
And nothing really can be done.
This is my point.
Like, how do you stop that?
Sure. Well, here's my point. And this is not, I'm going to go off on a tangent here. This is not unique to Shawnee Township. I think I've had the same feeling. I think lots of people have the same feeling. Somehow it seems to be that no matter who we vote for, we get the exact same thing, no matter what we're told. And frankly, and you kind of touched on it, and maybe it sounds silly, and maybe I'll regret saying it in hindsight, but I sincerely consider what happened on December 15th in 2025 as a version of Rocky. I mean, that's what that is. That is somebody that says, I'm not going to go down without a fight. Even though I don't have a rat's chance in hell, I'm going to fight. And I'm glad that he did. And most people wouldn't have the wherewithal to do that. But the only way that got that result was because the public stepped in and they gave a damn. Mm-hmm. Okay? And I would just put it in perspective this way. He didn't come back till January 12th.
Yep.
Okay. It's been almost exactly 4 months. I mean, the times I've been waiting on records is 25% of his return, to put that in perspective.
Yep.
How is it that it's just fast track? I mean, we would, and I mean this sincerely, I have one of the best jobs in the world because if I don't like you, I don't have to represent you. So personally, I do like Chief Miller. And maybe one day we'll all be in that position. Maybe he's a monster. But if he is, why is it so hard to show that?
I think I have a good read on people for the most part.
Sure.
And I can sense when people are lying or being dishonest or avoiding the truth or something like that. I've never gotten that sense from him. Sure. I haven't talked to him too much.
Sure.
But
I mean, frankly, if I can be honest, I wish he was a bit wiser because the thing that I don't understand is how this can happen. I mean, I never got a phone call. Right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, this all starts happening, and all I can presume is he operates in such good faith, he doesn't go like, oh, these people want my downfall.
Yeah.
I mean, who's had 2 public announcements to embarrass them?
Yeah, I mean, the only saving grace is he lives up in Van Wert, so he doesn't have to be around the members of the community that are...
Let me touch on that. That's once again, this is what I'm told through counsel. I suppose that's subject to change. My understanding also of another issue that they have with Chief Miller, and this is baffling to me because I've gone through all the meeting minutes, and my understanding is trying to get new firefighters was a constant thing on their docket.
Oh, it's still, I mean, as of the last meeting, they said
two people.
They're too short, and I mean, essentially, they're not getting many applications.
So, once again, I'm not going to say a name here, but in that meeting, and it's the year of our Lord 2026. Okay. Never in my lifetime did I ever think that I would hear, and a white person, not to get racial here, but a white person say that they might have an issue with Italians. Now, when I was in high school, we learned about like the early 1900s, late 1800s, and no Irish need apply, and the Swedes and the Irish and the Italians were treated different.
Sure.
My understanding of one of the things that they potentially take issue with, and this is just a statement from counsel, so if he wasn't authorized to say it, but is that in trying to fill one of these gaps in the fire department, Chief Miller had attempted to hire a non-U.S. national who was Italian. Now, that would be incredibly illegal. If his discipline is because the chief had attempted to hire somebody who was not of United States nationality, our federal laws prohibit discrimination on the basis of nationality.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I can't say that that's what motivates the trustees, but during that discussion, the fact that that man was an Italian was brought up. And that was bizarre. Also bizarre
in
because...
public or when?
This is when my meeting with counsel and HR.
This is your personal meeting.
And what's more bizarre is you then have an HR representative who I would think that this would be their nightmare scenario.
Yeah.
Somebody has said the chief tried to hire an Italian. And...
Yeah, and what?
Right, he was a murderer. He was, he never got certified.
Makes great pasta.
Yeah, exactly. What's the problem with Italians? So, I mean, my paralegal cat is an Italian. So she's American, but she's Italian of heritage. But, I mean, that was said.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the first thing that was said. Not, he wanted to hire somebody incompetent and that person was Italian. He tried to hire an Italian.
I guess I'm lost. Like, so this is brought up in your meeting you just had?
Yes, as something he did wrong. He tried to hire an Italian.
And I mean, a U.S. citizen or just like...
This is, my understanding is an actual Italian national.
Okay.
But legally within the United States.
A legal citizen.
I mean, we didn't, I was so taken aback by the trying to hire an Italian. I didn't think to say like, does he have a green card? But my presumption would be he wasn't illegal.
Yeah, I mean, do you have to be a legal U.S. citizen to be a firefighter in
I'm
Shawnee
not aware
Township?
of that requirement. I'm aware that under 505.38, you have to have a required certification. I think technically by Ohio state law, I think it's called a Firefighter 1 certification. Mm-hmm. I believe Shawnee Township and most townships require a Firefighter 2 certification.
Yeah, they're either 2 or 3. They're
something like that.
They go all out. You got to be a paramedic and a firefighter.
But if that was the basis of the objection, I would anticipate the statement would have been, well, he tried to hire somebody without a Firefighter 2 certification. Now, he tried to hire an Italian.
Well, he was previously scolded or I don't know what the right word is, but for trying to keep on someone who wasn't able to get that second level of certification.
Sure.
So that had come up before with him.
Sure.
So I mean, if it was that,
But then, in the most recent, as I understand it, the most recent meeting, there's like an absence of 2 firefighters.
Yeah, there's short one on 2 of the shifts, 2 of the 3 shifts.
It seems to me
and a lot of overtime happening.
It seems to me you would want your fire chief to hire firefighters to fill absent firefighter positions.
Yeah, they were complaining about the fact that they used to get 20 or 30 applications for this, and now they're lucky if they get 5.
So, and then that's another thing is I went through the meeting minutes. And I can't recall which one that was. I think that was after his suspension. But there's one resolution that didn't even go up for vote. Nobody would motion for it. And if I understand, I'm piecing this together based upon what counsel told me and what I read in that. I went through the meeting minutes after our meeting because I was just, what's happening? Why all this? And my understanding of that is counsel told me or specifically said, did he tell you about the guy in Van Wert? Did he tell you about his buddy in Van Wert? And so my understanding is the firefighter who went up potentially to get hired was the only one of all the people put forward who didn't get hired, because I don't think the Italian ever went up for a vote. But from the private meeting, I would have to presume that either he is a friend of the chief or the chief spoke promisingly of him.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only guy who never even went up for a vote.
I wrote about it because I remember what you're talking about because there was two. One of the guys, home run, great hire,
Sure.
A lot of experience. Second guy, one of the trustees specifically said he felt like the application was incomplete. Like when he read this employee's application for the job, that there was nothing in there that made him feel like this guy was like had firefighter experience or like was training to be a firefighter or something. And so like from that standpoint, it felt like, hey, reapply and do a better job with your application.
Sure.
And so that's why it didn't move forward. And I specifically remember Chief Miller saying that would have been nice to know before this meeting because it was a little embarrassing.
I guess my point would be is, and once again, I'm assuming things here, but I would think that would be an incredibly bizarre statement because I know Shawnee Township requires the Firefighter 2 certification. So,
yeah, I know they can let you like kind of like
sure,
work in different shifts and like work on that certification. And
you can
kind
train.
Get up there.
I
You
think,
can train up. Yeah,
sure. I mean, I'm sure that's been a thing where like, hey, he's got the 1 and he's working on the 2, whatever. But I mean, I guess my more pressing point is why would that subject you to discipline?
Yeah, I don't know why it would have subjected him to discipline.
If you didn't hire the person and they had to go up for a vote, why would the attempt to hire someone to fill a vacancy be something that we would potentially punish or remove you from office for?
Well, and I guess the question that goes through my mind is from a leadership standpoint, if you have somebody on your team, because I always say clearly for the fire department, it's tough to find people that want to step up into this job. I can't imagine too many people are going to be raising their hands to be fire chief after what's been going on if for some reason Chief Miller's not our fire chief soon. But like, you have an opportunity if Chief Miller said, hey, I think this guy's going to be a great fit, and the trustees just look at that and go, this is not going to be a great fit. Have a talk with them.
Sure.
Say, hey, look, when you're going through this process and you recommend somebody, like this was kind of concerning. He really wasn't a good fit, and we have a high standard.
Sure.
And so just if you're going to recommend, make sure we got some great because this guy really, here's the couple of reasons why. Explain it to him. It's that conversation that I think is missing.
Sure.
That good faith.
And I guess my point to that, and this is the defense attorney in me, if that was your goal, if that was your concern, I recall a certain hearing. Her name was Catherine. I can't remember her last name, the investigator. Now I remember.
You got there.
And she was nice and she was honest, I think, at least as to the results of her investigation. But during the inquisition, when they're going to put his head on the chopping block, she enthusiastically testified that the fire department adored this man. I mean, she didn't say they liked him. She specifically said they adored him.
Chief Miller?
Yes.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's the lady responsible for doing the investigation to get him fired. Says, without question, he's beloved by the fire department. So, once again, I ask, how many fire departments or police departments or road departments or any departments do we know anything about? And if the person responsible for putting your head on the chopping block says, well, without question, everybody who works for him loves him, why do we not give that guy, if no one else, the benefit of the doubt? And say, okay. And then if you got a legitimate problem, hey, you didn't cross your T, you didn't dot your I, we think you smile too much, you're ahead of your skis. Let's give you a good faith chance and say, we're getting pressure from so-and-so. So-and-so's happening. So-and-so's upset. But at the 11th hour and with no indication, have prepared behind the scenes and in secret to suspend and embarrass and probably, once again, speculating, triggering PTSD for the man.
Well, it's fair.
Right.
I mean,
embarrass him in the public and not have the dignity to look him in the eye and say, this is coming down the pike. We don't like it any more than you do. And say one way or the other. we're on your side and we're going to help you through it, and whatever happens, happens, or we got concerns and we need to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
But like Napoleon after Waterloo, we're not going to talk to you. We're going to exile you. You're going to have to leave Shawnee Township, as it were, and we're not going to have the dignity to tell you why we did it, at least not a month in.
Mm-hmm.
And then for me to come into that situation and say, well, but I'm sure they're going to operate in good faith. That's a bitter pill to swallow. That's a tough ask.
Well, it's been a puzzling situation across the board because, you know, obviously last year there was a long suspension and the public grew furious that we didn't hear anything. And this one, it feels different because it's state level investigation. So my assumption is, just someone who's ignorant to everything, is that the state said, hey, look, it is our recommendation behind closed doors in the executive session. It's our recommendation that you immediately suspend this guy while we do this investigation.
But this would be my point on that. And I don't know if that's an assumption on your part or not.
It's my assumption. I don't know
but
anything.
I'm saying, if that's a guy from the state, why do the meeting minutes not identify who that was? And why they were going into executive session to talk about a potential criminal prosecution?
I'm telling you, it was the Moneyball guy from Jonah. It was Jonah
Sure,
Hill from Moneyball.
That's saying. That's my point. Is it? And I guess this you kind of started with this, and we're going the long way around the barn. But no matter what camp you're in, and I acknowledge I'm going to be biased.
Yep.
But let's just put it this way: if I got an employee who steals, I'm not going to come up with 8 different reasons to fire him.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to fire him because they stole.
Yep.
And if I got an employee that targets people, I'm going to fire him because they target people.
Yep.
But what I'm not going to do is use the public tax dollars and keep them on leave for months and keep them on payroll when they're either a predator or potentially a felon or a criminal or a racist or a sexist, or a homophobe.
Yeah.
Or, what I'm going to do, here's my point. Sorry. I got involved maybe 10 days before that hearing, and I worked my way through all of that. I didn't sleep. I ate. I'm not going to say I didn't eat, but I didn't sleep. I prepared. I thought. I didn't have a moment's peace, but I was ready to go in 10 days. So the idea that they know all this, that this has potentially been going on since October of 2025, and we still don't know what it is, and they're still not going to give public records, and they're going to say they need more time. Anything that I know, you could have investigated that 2 weeks, maybe.
Well, that was the thing that puzzled me last year. I'm like, why did this take so long? It didn't seem like they're in, kind of a sloppy job, obviously.
Sure.
You picked it apart in a meeting and you didn't expect to, sounds like. So,
no, that's...
So I want to kind of get to the timeline of what we're dealing with. So we got an open investigation. So how...
I still don't know who the investigator is, by the way.
Should you legally know?
Well, that was the first thing I raised at the hearing the last time. So by statute, if you're going to investigate a member of a fire department, you have to either appoint the chief or you have to appoint a private citizen. I have not seen any meeting minutes to say they voted and appointed somebody to investigate Austin Miller.
There's been no vote for that I've been a part of. In
and that
my
was
memory,
raised the last time. I guess part of my point, and we'll get to it, I'm sorry, but part of my point is, frankly, the last time I gave you the playbook. So if you wanted to get them, I told you how to do it.
CYA.
Sure, go ahead.
So how do you get a sense of kind of the timeline of what's happening here? And I guess I always assumed the township was kind of in the dark as well on this, but it doesn't sound like they are necessarily, because it's not just a state thing, it's a township thing. From what you're saying. But how do you get a sense of the timeline on this? Do you have any idea? Do you get regular updates from anybody? Do you know when an estimated that we're going to conclude this? Well, you don't even know who the investigator is, but how do you this is an open-ended, indefinite thing at this point?
So what I would say is this is, once again, I've not been given any of their records, so I don't have any indication on a hearing date. I did in my letter specifically say there's no reason for this to be like last time. So
Please.
even if you're going to axe them,
Yeah.
2 months, right? Give me my records and set them for a hearing, and then we'll handle it from there. Because I don't think the township can handle that again, frankly.
And I'll just interrupt you. If they did want to fire him, is it difficult to fire the fire chief, or is the union and your legal prowess just so amazing that it's impossible to fire a guy?
So here's my understanding. First of all, by statute, there are specific enumerated things for which you can remove a fire chief: bribery in office, habitual drunkenness. I don't think either of those have been raised. Gross indecency, I think, is one.
Okay.
Nonfeasance, malfeasance, misfeasance. So that's typically like you didn't do your duty, you did a bad job at your duty, or you maliciously did a bad duty.
Those are pretty open.
Sure.
Okay.
But those are not specific.
Yep.
Not going to name names. I mean, for example, of a case where a fire chief was removed, I think I read a case where they had previously tried to remove him and that didn't work. And then I think they found that he had looked at porn on his computer.
Okay.
And he got removed for that.
Okay.
And the appellate court said,
sorry.
They have a policy that says you're not supposed to go on those websites. And he went on that website so they could terminate you.
Fair.
So, and you know, if you really wanted to remove him, you can, you know, this person says this person denies this, whatever, but you give them their fair day in a hearing and then you terminated them. And it's one of those things that leaves a bad taste in all of our mouths. And for the next 20 years, you go to a bar somewhere and somebody's whispering about it. And my hope would be that wouldn't be one of those cases. It could be those cases, and it will probably be one of those cases unless people care and get involved.
Sure.
Which is my reason for this. But this whole, we're going to put up a wall of silence and we're going to prosecute him in the court of public opinion and insinuate all these things. When like last time, that whole time, if we knew it was about pickleball and somebody said a no-no word, which was it's a bad no-no word, but fine.
Yep.
And he was supposed to come up with a budget somehow to save $5 million in a year, which I think is impossible. We would at least it would not have escalated.
Correct.
Okay, now we get it.
Yep.
But to go through all that.
Well, to be fair, you could say that, and the same public that's already pissed off about it could get even more riled up.
I don't speak for the public.
But
sure.
I mean,
I
it's
speak
just,
for myself.
I don't think you're going to quiet that crowd down if they don't feel like what you're saying. You're pickleball.
Sure.
Like, they would have lost their minds.
But I mean, I've probably had 20 plus people come to me and ask me and say, "What did he do? What did he do? What did he do? He must have done something," right?
Yeah, let me be the 21st person.
Sure.
What did he do?
Right. And if what I'm told is what he did, and I'm being as honest with you, allegedly, as counsel was with me, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about T-shirts.
Breast cancer T-shirts.
Breast cancer T-shirts. I guess the government's going to go around and bust up little girls' lemonade stands.
Okay.
Because they didn't get a permit, but T-shirts and, like I said, won't tell me how he targeted an employee.
Targeting an employee.
Won't tell me how.
Who loved him a few months ago.
And from my understanding, I don't know that to be the case, but from my understanding, some of the allegations are about things she was interviewed officially about. So, I mean, if you said the opposite of what you said before, as an attorney, we'd say, well, that's a little suspicious.
What changed?
What changed?
Yep.
Absolutely. And he tried to hire an Italian and allegedly somebody who's his friend. So, and if that's true, okay, but he can't hire them. They got to vote on it.
Well, if they held it against him for hiring an unqualified person that's his friend, that would be more understandable than anything related to his race.
But why wouldn't you just say, well, we're upset with Chief because he tried to hire somebody unqualified? Okay. You don't need to, do you need to keep that a secret? But I mean, I have a copy of it here. What their press announcement said, potential criminal conduct, or in essence, something like that.
Yeah.
Which one of those things is criminal?
If you stole, that's criminal.
Sure, but that's not them.
But I mean, he didn't do a good job stealing if the money was still sitting in an envelope at his desk at work.
But that's BCI.
Yeah.
I mean, they say, hey, we're not going to do it. And then if that happened in October and a member of the police department knows about it because they referred it, it's been like almost a year. There's no charges.
Yeah, and then why is it brought back up?
Right. And there might be an answer to that, but I don't have that answer.
So as far as like, there's no, like, you don't see the end of the road. You don't have a general idea of when.
I would say it this way: is in talking with counsel, he might get prosecuted. He might get prosecuted. And I said, so does that mean that you're telling me that if he doesn't get prosecuted, he gets to come back to work? And the response was, I didn't say that. So by hearing that, and once again, I don't know that counsel's authorized to say those things. I presume it.
Mm-hmm.
It would be troubling to me if I'm a township trustee and my counsel is saying things that I didn't say that he could say.
Yep.
Especially when he has represented that the township trustees have said a certain party can't be there for the meeting.
Sure.
But when he says, I didn't say that, then that tells me that the motivating factor for this is not allegedly something with the auditor's office. Because then you would say, we would be overjoyed if he came back, Dalton, because our own investigator said everybody there loves him. So why wouldn't we want the guy that the whole fire department loves?
And this is the township.
Sure.
Legal.
Yeah. And he can come on here. He can call me a liar. Okay. There's 4 people in that room.
Open invitation.
Open invitation. But just like last time, I'm the guy that wanted you to know what the truth was. Because, corny as it is, the truth will set you free. Okay? And here, we don't got a dead body. We don't have some horrendous action. So why not just say, hey, if that's what it is, mamby-pamby, ticky-tacky, he didn't file his TPS report, he doesn't show enough deference to the bench, blah, 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 then just say it.
Yeah.
Or we just don't like him. Okay, fine. But that's not, we might be investigating him for criminal conduct. Okay.
Talking into the mic now.
Sure.
So what if the state, after their investigation, like in the way this works, if the state would it be appropriate for the state to make a recommendation on whether the chief should be removed or not, or
Sure.
do they make are they allowed to fire the chief, the state level?
So,
or would they just make a recommendation to the township?
Sure. And I'm going to say this just so nobody's misled. I am not a criminal defense attorney.
Okay.
Now, if there was a criminal charge here, I might become one, but I'm not a criminal defense attorney. I am not a prosecutor. Now, outside of that, here's my opinion on that. No, I do not believe that an investigator or a prosecutor, theoretically, there could be a local prosecutor or there could be a prosecutor from the AG's office.
Okay.
So, if this is really motivated by the auditor and the auditor thinks it's a problem, then someone in the office of the attorney general could try the case. And it might and I don't know this to be the case, say charges were sent for review to the local prosecutor and they say, I don't want to charge it. I don't think it's there, or I just don't feel comfortable, then it could get passed on. Him being charged, if that were to happen, first of all, in our country, does not mean that he is guilty.
Yep.
Innocent until proven guilty. 2,
Sure, put that at the beginning.
Sure. Does not, fair enough, good point. Does not remove him from his office. The only thing that's going to remove him from his office is if he resigns or if they vote to remove him. Or they reach an agreement and he's demoted, or, so
the township would have to put it to a vote and they would have to remove him. And when I say the township, the 3 trustees.
Correct.
Okay.
So the thing and I'm not trying to target anybody, but
no, it's okay.
The thing that I found interesting, because you told me that you thought Kenny Gross looked sick, and other than I shook their hands at the hearing,
I was worried he was gonna
Sure.
like he got caught up in something.
Sure. Other than they shook my hands and thanked me at the prior hearing on December 15th, I've not talked to them. I don't really know anything about them. I don't know if they're good guys or bad. I don't really.
I did a podcast with 2 of them.
Okay. So it's probably a good indicator. But the thing I will say, and that it's emblazoned in my memory, so take that for what it's worth, is while I'm having that meeting with counsel, he said something that I thought was very peculiar. He says, it took a really long...
Council?
Yeah, council
Okay.
says. Trustees are not there.
Okay.
He says it took a really long time for Kenny Gross to understand. Either the gravity of...
Understand what?
Right, I still don't know. But it took a really long time for Kenny Gross to understand. And my natural question was, well, who was trying to make him understand? I mean, who is trying to... If he says he's uncomfortable with something, theoretically, I don't know this, but if he's uncomfortable with something, or he thinks something's wrong, or he thinks something's not true, when you say it took a really long time to make him understand, what a person from the public takes that as, I would say, is that you're trying to make him understand something. I mean, I don't know how else you interpret that statement.
The only way maybe it would take him a really long time to understand that it was in the best interest of the township to vote to suspend him.
But then
there would have required a conversation before in advance.
Sure,
and
and that would be a violation.
That was a violation.
So, I mean, and my point on this is, I think that's a troubling... I don't know that to be the case, but I think that's a troubling statement as somebody who's counsel for a couple public bodies. I don't ever tell somebody how to vote. They might ask me for my opinion.
Yep.
I think this is for the best. If they're going to do roll call wrong or not announce why they're going to do something, stop. Okay. But when you say it took a really long time for someone to understand, that either indicates to me that you personally were talking to them about it, or someone has relayed to you their efforts to make that person change their mind. And I'm going to go ahead and take a crazy guess and say there was never a long, drawn-out argument at a public session of the Shawnee Township trustees where Kenny Gross was vociferously objecting to something and somebody was telling him he was wrong. Because we'd all be better off if that had happened.
In the public sessions that I've attended, which I think I've made most of them. I think I missed one meeting. I haven't seen that.
Sure. So, I mean, and I don't know him. I'm not speaking for him. And, hey, he might be totally in the opposite camp. I don't speak for any of them. I don't know them. But that was said, and I find that to be a fascinating comment.
From legal.
From legal. Is that it took a really long time to make him understand. And then, well, if he's suspended within 4 months, how soon after his return were we trying to make Kenny Gross understand? And why were we trying to make Kenny Gross understand?
Well, and I guess I'd be surprised that just in the context of the situation and what's happened, that the same wouldn't be said of Paul Neff.
Sure.
Because I mean, they both essentially were campaigning on behalf of Austin Miller. That was part of their whole campaign to be trustees, that they felt that that this was wrong, what was happening to him.
Yeah.
So they were champions of the fire department. They were champions of Austin Miller. They praised him. I think Paul Neff said the fire department, the firehouse is on fire, and someone's got to put it out.
Sure. So, it's on fire again.
It is on fire again. Maybe it never went out.
Well, and
the embers were just burning there.
My impression is the fire, unfortunately, never went out. And this might be conspiracy mode, but just like last time when I'm getting up to speed, I noticed certain things. Doesn't mean there's anything sinister about it, but I noticed certain things. And so peace is always a good objective. But if you, just from reviewing the meeting minutes, it's my understanding that basically within the past 4 months, the prior fire chief, Chief Truesdale, I think he was given a Lifetime Achievement Award.
He was.
I think that, and obviously I wasn't involved with that. I think I went to school with his sons, maybe if memory serves.
Yep, you probably did. At least one of them.
Okay, and I've heard good things about him.
Shawnee grad, by the way.
Yeah, Shawnee grad.
This is a Shawnee
podcast.
podcast.
True. I was a constituent at one point.
Okay.
But they gave him a Lifetime Achievement Award, which he probably deserved. But I know from the prior deal, members of the public came to me. I heard lots of times, this is what they did to the last chief. This is what they did to the last chief. Setting that aside, recently, I believe prior trustee Simonello was given a Lifesaver Award.
At this past meeting.
Okay.
He was.
I think I saw a photo of that.
Rightfully so.
Him
and his daughter.
Okay.
Yep.
And I'm not saying they don't deserve that.
They did for what happened.
Sure.
Yeah.
But what I find interesting is that also at that meeting, I think former trustee Spielis was there.
Both trustees were there. Former trustees.
So if I'm projecting that out, it seems like someone somewhere has made a concerted effort to try to bind up all of these old wounds at the same time that they're deciding to go forward on Chief Miller.
The Lifesaver Award for Ted Simonello was because him and his daughter happened to come upon a house that was on fire.
Disputing that.
He identified it. She walked into a smoke-filled house and saved the life of a resident that was in there.
Incredibly brave thing to do.
And so ultimately, the award that they were given was very similar to one that I think her name was Kylie Morris. He received in a very similar fashion.
Sure.
When a member of our
It
public,
exists.
they should be recognized, and it was no surprise that Clark was there, and the families of them were there. It was the first meeting that they were back, but I wouldn't connect those dots that like this
That's
was
fine.
happening at the same time as this.
Said might be conspiracy brained. I said
I don't think that had anything to do because ultimately the moment that happened and that story broke, you just knew that they were going to they deservedly deserve to be recognized.
Sure. And I'm not saying
Township.
that they don't. I'm just saying I understand Ted Simonello being there and getting an award. I just thought it was interesting that Clark Spielis was also there.
I would imagine they're just friends.
Could be. But
I don't know.
Sure, but then the problem becomes if they're friends, and if they're friends with the former trustee,
which is a safe assumption in my mind.
Sure, then they both lost their elections because of Chief Miller. In their mind, I mean, that was specifically said to me.
I think that's a safe thing to say.
Sure.
I think that's a safe thing to say.
I think that's a feeling to put away.
And this is, I'll just put a little bit of conspiracy out there. I don't like to just flame things.
That's why I say conspiracy.
I would ask the question of if you have three people that are friends that maybe Chief Miller was disrespectful to one or more of those trustees or felt like he overstepped their boundaries, then obviously everything that's transpired since then. It would be it's fair that somebody could come to the assumption that there is a conceited effort to get even or kind of get justice for what had happened.
That reminds me, and that touches on that, and I'm glad we talked through all that. One of the other things brought up by counsel was, and if we need to go, we can.
No,
go.
As long as we get out of here in about 6 minutes, the building closes down at 6. So.
Sure, we'll be okay. Is that allegedly someone at some point, undisclosed period of time, recorded Chief Miller saying something. I don't know the words. I haven't been told what. I supposedly was recording, but no one's given me a recording, so I don't know if it exists or not. But did not speak kindly of either a prior trustee or prior trustees. Now, I don't know how that would affect his current employment. I don't know that wasn't while he was on leave. I don't know what that is. But as a red-blooded American, I would say, after having gone through all that, and then if a person is no longer your employer and someone runs your reputation through the mud, I don't know that I should ever be required to be thankful for having to go through that.
Yeah, without knowing, it wouldn't be the craziest thing to hear that he might have said something disparaging on those two. I haven't heard it personally. I haven't heard it, but
I was told it. I was said there was a recording, but nobody's given it.
He didn't say anything on the podcast or anything like that.
Sure.
Plenty of other people say things disparaging, and I hope that people stop and just calm down and start treating people with some respect. But those people also argue that their fire chief isn't being treated with respect. So I'm going to just let's all calm down a little bit. But that's America. So
yeah, absolutely.
It's the world we live in.
It's the world we live in. And, I hope this has somehow been beneficial for everybody. And like I said, I can come back at some point, maybe talk about it more, or if there's developments, et cetera. But to the extent that we're going to wrap this thing up and we got to get out of here, if I can ask for anything, I would ask that you, in either the days or months to come, keep both Chief Miller and the township trustees in your prayers. Whatever is going on, and you don't have to be a religious person even in your thoughts, but whatever is going on, I'm hoping it's not going to escalate. I'm hoping that there can be a peaceful resolution, but I'm here because I'm going to be the canary in the coal mine. I'm starting to get a bad feeling. I'm starting to see things not complied with. And I don't want that to happen. And I don't want the township to have a problem or the township to be exposed to liability. But I don't have a reason to believe that anybody here is an evil person or a wicked person or a malicious person. I don't know why they're doing what they're doing. And I also don't know everything yet. But, hopefully I will. But to the extent I have a request, is that you keep them in mind, and that if this would get ugly and I have to go to that hearing, that to see those same people who refused to leave until they knew it was absolutely over in the room behind me.
Well, I'm sure you will have that. Dalton, I got to say, I thought it was a little bit shocking that you wanted to come on here. I've been 25 episodes in. I guess I'm a veteran at this point, but
25 is kind of a big deal.
I appreciate you coming in because this entire podcast started because there was no information out there to the public, and we just wanted to interview the people that were running so we at least knew who we were voting for. So for you to come on here and share at least your side of the story is more information than the public has right now, and so for that, I thank you. I obviously you do a very good job with what you do.
Thank you.
And it was entertaining, at least, for what a mess the township has been. So I hope this resolves quickly, and best of luck in what you do. And just at the end of the day, I hope we find the truth, and I hope we can move forward in a positive direction.
Absolutely.
All right. So
God
thank
bless.
you. Appreciate it.